people's hearing and eyes fail to see and hear. We use AI to detect AI.
Let me introduce our host here, Anatoly, CEO and founder of AI or Not. He's really redefining what we see as truth in this digital age. And let's get right into it. One of the most important things in today's day is to be able to tell what's true. How does AI text detection work?
AI text detection works by an AI reading text and determining if it's likely that it was written by AI or by a human. And it does that the following way. It checks for words and words patterns that are more likely to have been written by AI versus by a human. Like, for example, before 2022, you can make the argument that all text written since the beginning of time was all human based. And after 22, the waters get a little muddier with the introduction of ChatGPT and other text writers. So when you read the text written by AI, sometimes you can just tell, and it's because there's words like delve and let's uncover that and other things that just naturally are not written typically by humans. Though one time I did find myself writing delve in a Slack message, so that I question whether AI is training me versus the other way around, but that's a whole different topic.
Wow.
But what a computer model will do is take a look at the words and the word patterns, and if there's more words in there that typically are not written by humans versus what's written by an AI, then it'll determine that this text indeed was written by an AI model itself.
Yeah. And so AI writers like ChatGPT, I've heard they have the capability of detecting their text. They put kind of a watermark. Is that true?
That's 100% correct. So over the past couple of years, they've put out a couple of different points. So when they tried to do text detection, AI text detection on their own content, the first try, they were about 26% accurate, which is not very great.
Mm-hmm.
But when they put in watermarks, meaning they planted certain words at certain points in sentences, they got to 99+% accuracy. So an example of that would be, what if in the third position of the second sentence and the fourth position of the fifth sentence I put in this is a I. And though as you're reading these sentences you won't ever see these words, but what if they were in there implanted at certain points, and now anytime this text detector was reading it and it's looking for the position of these words, it's now able to get it. Now again, this is a very basic rudimentary example. I'm sure what they're doing is much more complex, but the process is very similar. By, if you know you're putting in certain words at certain parts of a sentence, you can now tell that, hey, this was indeed written by me based on the pattern that we put in, or watermark in their terms.
So it's kind of like, to the person reading, they would never know. But if you have the special goggles to be able to see it highlighted, you would see this text, just like in the old movies where they hide secret messages in the newspapers that would tell you, okay, this was definitely written by ChatGPT or this specific AI model. But you were speaking to ChatGPT having admitted that they have that done, basically. Into the next modality now. How does audio detection work?
Audio detection works in a really similar way as the other modalities, but instead of looking at text or pixels as in an image or video, it's looking at the wavelengths and the pitches of sound. So you and I speaking, we have a certain pitch that is human, versus an AI model would generate and try to mimic that pitch, but it will be slightly different and the wavelength will be slightly off. It's just like a sound that a human ear won't be able to hear or tell the difference between, but special goggles, in this case special headphones of a computer, would be able to tell the difference and determine whether something was spoken or sung by AI versus a human. So that's typically how it works. The pitch and the wavelength slightly different than that of a human from an AI generated version of it.
Would that be specifically on purpose, just like ChatGPT inputting words in specific places to know that it is generated by their AI, or is this something that the AI doesn't do on purpose and it can detect that it was is not exactly human?
Not that I'm aware of, that at least publicly, that these models are putting in watermarks in audio. But as far as I know, you do need the special earphones or special model to be able to determine that it's AI generated audio. So
Got it.
no, there's no marker in place like that's saying this is AI. There's no song rhythm that yells, "Hey, this is AI generated," and it's all on the basis of like the specific pitch and the wavelength and how it sounds like to a computer, not particularly to a human, of whether it's AI generated or not.
That makes sense. And this is a scary question, but give me your full thought here. What will happen when it gets to the point where computer is so good that it tricks itself? What do you think will happen there when the audio is so good that AI can no longer detect it? Or do you think that's not feasible?
I think right now the audio is really good in itself. And if you were to listen to it, especially a voice, it's hard to tell as is. But the way that people sound, though a computer tries to recreate it, it's always slightly different. And I would argue that the AI companies themselves are not trying to, at least I like to think, not trying to impersonate people on purpose. They're just trying to mimic them. And those are two different things. And there's still slight sounds and slight giveaways that say, like, this is AI, that even though you and I or people won't be able to tell the difference, and computer model will and can tell. So that's what I think, and I actually think that the improvements in those AI generators themselves will be in the quality of the music or the quality of the voice or the different pitches that they're able to make, as opposed to trying to mimic that of exactly that of a human. So I still think, and we haven't seen evidence to the contrary, that a computer can't tell the difference.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so let's jump into the next media, which is image, right? How does AI image detection work?
Yeah, so yeah, image detection. Back when people can be able to really tell, it was really like a finger thing. Like you saw multiple fingers, you saw, text was a little wonky, but then, the AI gods solved all of those things. So now it's a game of pixel patterns. So each one of the generators has a distinct pattern of pixels that's present in their images, and those are slightly different than that of an iPhone or an Android phone or your DSLR camera or whatever camera that you use. They try to mimic what reality looks like, but the pixel patterns are slightly different than that of a human generated image. There are watermarks in images in some of the generators. Like if you ever generated an image from Dolly, there's a little tiny watermark in the bottom right. Grok, the one from X, formerly known as Twitter, also has a watermark of Grok at the bottom right. But I actually don't think that's a sustainable solution, because what it can actually do is have people put doubt on good images too. So what if I took a real image that maybe doesn't align with what I think? Maybe it's like politically charged. Maybe I want to take real information and try to claim it as fake information, and then I put a watermark on a real image. So I truly believe that the pixel level patterns of the images is the right and best way to be able to tell what's a real image versus what's not, and what's AI or not.
It's getting really to a point where AI seems to be more and more and more a part of every single thing we have. It seems like everyone is using AI. Do you feel like AI is a net positive or a net negative on humanity?
I think it's a huge net positive. So the
So
creativity, yeah, the creativity it unlocks, the potential it unlocks. There will be some pain in terms of there might be some jobs that become obsolete in this world. There might be even like we talked about audio, like maybe even less customer service that are people and more that are AI. Maybe less data entry, maybe less translation because AI can do all of these things. But for overall humanity, it's a huge, huge positive in terms of the creativity and the productivity and the things that we will be able to accomplish in the future. The negatives, there are quite a few. If you can no longer tell what's real or what's not, how do you, how can you determine, or base decisions on things you don't know that are, if they're AI or not themselves? So that's where it does become quite challenging, and the negatives do start to arise. Like there's a really famous case on the audio side where an AI generated voice of Joe Biden called an entire state and told them not to show up for an election. There's cases of musicians, real musicians' work being used to train an AI model that recreates that musician, but it's nothing to do with them nor associated with them. On images, I think we saw it in political cycles and news cycles where AI generated images are used to create false narratives about people and about topics. And those are some of the really big negatives that are out there. A lot of non consensual misinformation, non consensual content being generated by AI. But I think with companies like AI or not, we'll be able to really knock out the negatives so that people can just enjoy the positives and see where that leads the world and humanity in the future.
that's amazing to hear because with a company that detects AI, most people might say, "Oh, is you guys want to make AI disappear or whatever." But it's good to hear that there's hope and that AI can actually be used for good. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys are fighting fire with fire. You're using AI to try and make sure that AI is detected.
Yeah, we use AI to detect AI, where people's hearing and eyes fail to see and hear what's AI or not. Computer models are still able to do it. So our product is AI. I consider ourselves an AI native company where the tools that we use are really AI driven and people are augmented with these technologies, and the products that we commercialize are artificial intelligence in themselves to try to solve cases of AI generated fraud and other negatives that are arising from this new world of generative AI that we're in.
And talking about generative AI, have you heard the news of Meta? Meta had this product which was AI influencers, and just recently there's a news that came out that Instagram and Facebook deleted their experimental AI because there was backlash against their AIs. A lot of negative thoughts around it on the internet were citing the dead internet theory, which basically means that the activity on the internet is mostly bots. And so having more AIs explicitly out there just creating content was nonsense. It was going the wrong way, what they call in the industry slop content. And so I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
I would have loved to be a fly on the wall in the meeting where it was decided it was a good idea for the social network itself to create their own AI influencers. But that's a sidebar. um, I agree that it does not create a very good user experience. Social media, I think, is starved for content, especially visual content, especially video content, because it's harder to make, and there's so much time and so many billions of users, and billions of minutes spent on these platforms that the more content they make, the better, and the more that people stay on. So they probably came to the conclusion of, wow, what if we start creating our own content and using AI of you know, people that we think based on the analytics that we have will be super engaging. Where it kind of falls apart is when people start seeing that and it's not genuine, and then you realize that the social network themselves are the originator of this AI generated content. It kind of creates almost a conflict of interest, of where the social network should just be the host of the content, not the creator of it, and definitely not. Though believe me, I love to see the Mark Zuckerberg content of him, like
Oh yeah.
surfing and doing all these amazing things, but creating
That's
AI
him doing his own personal content.
on
It's like
personal
that.
content. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. We all love it, but creating AI influencer ones, I think, no surprise, had an extremely negative backlash. Though I am really happy to see big tech at least going forward and trying new things. Though this was quite a miss, and I don't
Yeah.
think users of the platforms appreciated it.
100%. I think the internet agrees. And another point that I wanted to get your input on, what are your thoughts on the dead internet theory? Do you think is as bad as people think, of like the majority of the activity in the internet being bot generated? Or do you think it's a smaller percentage? What do you think?
I think it's a valid theory. I think the internet, again, pre 2022, has been, people's creativity in writing, and now AI is being trained on that. But I think that AI can write the next Harry Potter? No. Do I think that AI can write an incredible, post that changes, someone's life on a forum? I don't think so yet, at least. So if we lose that magic of people's creativity, whether it's visual content, audio content, or written word, then what? You're right. Like what happens to the internet? And I think this AI influencer, like the backlash from it, is a really great example of that. Of people will not be happy, and they will not be happy with their experience. So I do think there is validity to it, because the amount of content that can now be created through AI is so much larger than that of humans. Like before this call is over, I can probably generate 100,000 words, programmatically via these tools. Versus if I sat down and write, it's much harder. Sorry, my phone was dying and now it's going off on alerts. Sorry, and though I can generate a couple 100,000 words before this call is over, I would never be able to come close to that in the same amount of time. So if the amount of AI generated content so far exceeds that of human generated content, and now the internet is primarily made up of that, then there is validity to the dead internet theory.
And this theory has been on fire because I can tell you it was according to like the main sources. This first came from 4chan in
Yeah.
2010, where people had some reason to believe of like some Chinese bot farms or some Russian bot farms like farming likes and views and everything like that and posting like bot generated content. But now with AI being mainstream, this lit a fire and this under this community, and now they really believe this to be true. But I 100% agree with you, and I'm sure that tools like AI or not are going to be able to keep us at rest and keep us safe, knowing exactly, okay, this might be enjoyable but it is AI, or this is not enjoyable and I know that it is AI.
100% agree. We'll continue to work on that mission, but those articles in 2010, they definitely have validity today in 2025. And I firmly believe that the amount of content generated in the world, will the AI versions of it will surpass that of the human versions of it. And over time, what does that create for the experience of an average internet user or browser? and frankly, the AI themselves. If you just start training on AI starts training on AI generated content themselves, I don't think that even creates a very good product or experience in itself. So there is a lot of validity to those theories.
As an AI expert in the field. So let me ask you a couple of questions and you just tell me yes, no. So, AI influencers or real influencers? Which are the worst?
I actually think that there's a fundamental problem where the number one profession that children want is an influencer. AI influencers are a bigger problem than real influencers.
Okay. If your favorite celebrity was AI, would you care?
No, no, they'd be perfect. They would not have any controversy, and they could be actually a better role model for my children than what actual celebrities are without naming any names.
Should platforms label AI generated content?
They should.
Yeah. And that's it. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us.